Kelly from the Terra team, here to walk through the T101 Notebooks Quickstart. This tutorial workspace will give you hands-on practice setting up and launching a Jupyter Notebook to plot the data you generated in the Workflows Quickstart. When you're done, you'll be able to say if this study shows that there is a relationship between a student's height and their GPA. In Part 1, you'll set up the Jupyter Cloud environment, the virtual machine that runs the notebook. In Part 2, you'll run the notebook to analyze the data you generated in the Workflows Quickstart in the student data table. If you're new to Jupyter Notebooks, there's an optional Jupyter 101 tutorial notebook that can give you a bit more of a notebook primer. This is the last in a series of 3 Quickstarts that walk through a mock study of the correlation between height and grades for a cohort of 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. When you run the notebook, you will see whether there's a correlation between height and GPA for these middle school students. You may be surprised at what you find. Let's get started. The interactive Jupyter app runs in a fully customizable cloud environment VM that you will need to set up and launch the first time you run a notebook in the workspace. You'll start in the Analyses tab. You see there's 2 notebooks in the workspace. We're going to run the Analyze Data from the Table notebook. You can set up the cloud environment by clicking on the cloud icon on the right. Click on the Jupyter logo. This will surface the Jupyter Cloud Environment default pane. Click the Create button to start a Jupyter Cloud environment with the default settings. When you click Create, it will take a few minutes for the Jupyter Cloud environment to start. During this time, Terra is asking for and setting up the Google resources for the virtual machine that's going to run the notebook. You can also get to the Jupyter Cloud environment pane by clicking on the notebook name. Billing begins when your cloud environment is created and continues until you pause or delete it, regardless of whether the VM is running any computations. Every time you open a notebook, a new Jupyter kernel is created. If you have multiple notebooks open and running in a single workspace, they will all consume resources, memory, and CPUs on the same cloud environment. You'll be able to see if the cloud environment is running by the color of the dot near the Jupyter icon on the right sidebar. Once your cloud environment is running, you'll see a green dot right below the Jupyter logo. You can now dive into the tutorial notebook to answer the burning question of whether and how height influences GPA for a cohort of middle school students. To run the notebook, click on the title and then click Open. So you'll get a preview right here. This notebook is meant to be self-service, so it has a fair amount of documentation. You can scroll down to the first code cell, which is right here, installing a list of Python packages. To run the code, you click into the cell and you can click Run or Shift Return for a shortcut. You'll know that it's running because there's an asterisk in between, and when it's done, there will be a number in there. You'll repeat this until you've executed the code in all the cells from the notebook. Make sure to read the documentation so you understand the point of each code block. As a side note, good documentation means you don't have to be able to code to run a notebook analysis. When you've run all the code cells, you can pause the Jupyter Cloud environment by clicking the Jupyter logo and clicking Pause. Pausing saves a significant amount of money. Once it's paused, you can close the notebook by clicking the green X on the top right. One more trick to see all your cloud environments. Click on the cloud environment under the Profile section of the main navigation menu. This will show all the cloud environments you have running and their persistent disk storage. You can delete them in one place. So you're not spending money on cloud resources you don't need. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the 3 Quick Start tutorials, and especially the Notebooks Quick Start, where you found out what does height have to do with your grades.